Hello, my name's Ollie. I'm going to talk to you today about a watch that's been in my collection for 5 or 6 years now, and it's the Rolex GMT Master 16700. So, quick rundown of the model then. So the 16700 was produced between about 1988 and 1999, something like that. So between 10 and 11 years of production. They were launched actually 5 years after the GMT Master 2, which is a bit strange. So this is the direct descendant of the 16750, and before that the 1675. So the GMT Master 16700 carries the torch from its lineage, because this one doesn't have an independently settable 24-hour hand, which the GMT Master 2 does. So the Master 2 and the Master were launched concurrently, so to speak. They were both available at the same time, and the Master was sold at a lower price point. As a result, it was sold only in stainless steel, so there was no precious metal bimetal option, and it was sold with two different bezel options. What you have here, the Pepsi and the full black. It came with a couple of different bracelet options. So it came with this oyster, but it came with this particular clasp that you have here, and then the flip lock came around 1989, 1990. They moved to the flip lock like you see on the Submariner. And then you also have the option of a Jubilee. So those are the kind of three core bracelet options. Oyster with a normal clasp, oyster with a flip lock like a sub, and the Jubilee. There is a rare option of an oyster with a flip lock and the diver's extension. They are rare. So that's very similar. Well, I think it is actually the Submariner bracelet that was essentially available there by special request. So what this watch also features, which is a nice balance against the 24-hour hand that's settable independently on the Master 2, is that this one has a quick set date. So when you look at the two watches, Master 2 and GMT Master, and you think which one works best for me, I think the key question there is how often are you genuinely going to be using this watch to look at a second time zone? You can do it with this one because obviously you can move the bezel, and the 24-hour hand points to essentially the numbers written on the bezel. So right now it's reading like 4:30, but if I want to set it to a time zone that is essentially 2 hours behind, I just move the bezel around, and therefore the 24-hour hand just points to what is marked as 2:30 now on the bezel. So it's a fairly simple, well, very simple, but neat solution. Obviously with the Master 2, you can set this 24-hour hand independently of the hour hand. So it will not just read directly what the hour hand would read here. You can set it to wherever you want on the dial, but that is also the primary way that you change the date. So it's a bit clunkier, takes more time. So if you're wearing a watch like this as part of a collection or in rotation, I think the GMT Master's got its own benefits versus the Master 2. The other reason I think this is a nice watch to have versus the GMT Master 2 is that this is a rarer watch. They didn't sell as many, mainly because the price points were fairly similar, and most people adopted to go for the independently settable 24-hour hand like you get on the Master 2. So these are a nice option that are still cheaper in the collector's market at the moment. So the prices for this probably would start around 8,500 UK pounds GBP. Probably range to about 11, 12. You might be paying a bit more than 12, but I mean that would be a complete set with history, you know, original everything, unpolished, you know, from a bricks and mortar store. I think, you know, for something like this is a watch that I bought 5 or 6 years ago. It came with a box, no papers, although I probably will put it in for a service soon. It's original dial, original hands, keeping good time. I think you're looking at between 9 and 10 for one of these. It's in good condition, it's obviously all original, but you know, I think with these 5-digit watches, personally, I think a watch that's 5 digits and up to 30 years old, you should be really looking at papers with that. for an investment. So I'm slightly frustrated with myself that I didn't kind of hold fire and wait for one with papers, but this one came up and it was a good price and I thought I'd grab it. So it still has a place in my collection, this one, even though I've got an Explorer 2 that I often probably grab more than this one, because this one is just a little bit too ostentatious sometimes with this Pepsi bezel, or the Bleu Rouge, B-L-R-O, excuse me. But it's a nice watch with a lot of charm, actually. And these 5-digit Rolexes, as I've said in previous videos, just still wear so well. So it's 40mm, of course. It's the 3175 movement, so very, very kind of robust movement. I haven't had this serviced and there's no history with it to say it was serviced, and it's still running like perfectly. So service history, wouldn't worry too much with one of these, as long as it's keeping good time. This also, I think, has the nice tritium dial, which I would always go for. The interesting thing with the GMT Master is that they were essentially all tritium up to the very last of them, where they started putting Luminova with a Swiss dial. So those are usually, like, I think your A or U serials are the Luminova Swiss dials. There are rumours that they've got some Luminova indices with tritium marked dials. Apparently Rolex produced a load of dials and essentially then had moved their production run onto Luminova, so they started just putting Luminova on the tritium dials. So that could be a really interesting piece to collect in the future, especially if it's got an oyster bracelet with a flip lock and the diver's extension from the factory, so to speak, as it was ordered. That would be a very interesting GMT Master combination, I think. So kind of final thoughts on this. I think it's just such a striking, iconic look for Rolex. And to me, I still put it on and just love the look of it on the wrist. I think the colours are, they're vibrant, but they're not over the top. It's just so well proportioned at 40mm. I love the oyster bracelet, although of course with these slightly older ones, especially with the clasp, they can feel very, very tinny. I think the prices of these will probably stay where they are. To be honest, I'd be surprised if we're getting big price increases, because although the GMT Master is a rare watch, it's rare, relative to the 16710, the GMT Master 2. It's not rare relative to, say, a 1675, a vintage. And these are kind of moving into vintage territory, but they're not really there yet. They're kind of in that neo-vintage bracket. As is the 16610 Submariner, the 16570 Explorer 2. They're kind of stuck there as well as this one. So I think, not a bad place to put your money, but you're probably not going to get incredible returns on something like this. But a very, very wearable, iconic Rolex that is, I think, a thinking person's choice because of the quick set date. So unless you're actually using this for traveling, really, really good option versus the Master 2. And personally, if you can find one with a Jubilee, I think it's a beautiful combination, which is probably what I'll be looking for next. A Jubilee bracelet to pop on this, just to give it a completely different look. Add to which, obviously, if you're putting the black bezel insert in this as well, you can have so many different looks in one watch. The oyster with the Pepsi, or the black insert and the Jubilee give you just so many different looks for this particular watch. So I hope you found this video useful. Please do let me know if you've got any questions in the comments. If you think about getting a GMT Master, let me know if you have any questions that I haven't covered. But thanks very much for watching. Cheers.